everything you need to start your morning. This is Good Day Tampa Bay.
Thanks, Lindsay. George Zimmerman is behind bars charged with second-degree murder for killing 17-year-old Trayvon Martin in Sanford. The special prosecutor's decision to file charges answers the national rally cry demanding Zimmerman's arrest, but the legal drama is really just beginning. Attorney Felix Vega has been following the Trayvon Martin case from the very beginning, and he's back with us this morning to discuss the latest. Good morning to you, Felix.
Good morning, Kristin.
Now, a lot has happened since we last talked about the case of George Zimmerman, again in jail, charged with second-degree murder now. Now, Zimmerman has a bail hearing set for Friday, but we understand that may get delayed. Why would that happen?
Well, there was one thing that was disclosed on Friday during this case. Judge Jessica Rexseidler, who is the judge presiding over the case, disclosed in one of the hearings that it was actually her husband works for the law firm of an attorney named Mark Najim. Mark Najim is a criminal defense attorney in Orlando. He's also a CNN analyst, and it was Mark Najim that actually referred Zimmerman to Mark O'Mara, who you see there standing next to Zimmerman in that initial appearance hearing. She's giving them till Friday to decide whether or not there is going to be a conflict in the case where she would not be able to preside over the case in these initial proceedings. So assuming that issue is resolved, we go ahead to the bond hearing. There's many different things that are going to be considered. One, he is entitled to a bond. He's being held no bond right now. That is standard procedure for a murder case or any sort of homicide charge. Things that the state is going to have to consider, they basically have to put on some show to prove that there's proof evident and presumption great, what's called an Arthur hearing, to show that there's enough evidence to hold them if they want him held no bond. The other side, for the defense, they're going to have to show that he's not a flight risk. We didn't know where he was for those 45 days. He actually turned himself in Jacksonville at FDLE, so they're going to have to show that he will be able to come back to court. He's going to be guaranteed he's going to come back to court, and his safety is also at issue right now. Where is he going to stay? Where is he going to go in the meantime while the case proceeds?
And now let's talk about Zimmerman's arrest. The prosecution filed a probable cause affidavit basically explaining their evidence, but it really doesn't reveal much. Is this a complete picture of what the prosecution may have?
No, it's not. We actually have part of the probable cause affidavit that we can pull up right now that deals with a couple of the issues in this case. Basically, the probable cause affidavit sets forth the probable cause for the charge. It doesn't get into a lot of the specifics of the actual case itself. Right there, the part that we're showing right now, it deals with the 911 calls and also the fact that Trayvon Martin's mother supposedly identified his voice from that 911 call. If you scroll down to the bottom of the affidavit, you'll see that there's more information about the medical examiner, that there was an autopsy performed. We haven't seen those results. And also right there, it's important to note that this is not a complete recitation of all the facts and the evidence in this case, only presented for the judge to determine whether or not there's probable cause. If the judge felt that there was not probable cause, she could turn around to the prosecutors and say, you don't have enough, I want some more evidence as to these specific elements of second-degree murder. So this is not the complete picture of the case. There's much more that's going to come out in the days to come.
And let's talk about the charge against Zimmerman, second-degree murder. There was some debate over that and why prosecutor Angela Corey didn't go with manslaughter. How did the two charges differ?
Well, manslaughter is a lesser included charge of second-degree murder, and the big debate on Wednesday when the charges were filed was, like you said, why second-degree murder? Second-degree murder requires that, one, the victim is dead. It seems a very obvious element to prove, but we do have to prove it. Also, there was a criminal act of the defendant, and the third part is really where we get into the subtle nuances of the case, that it's an act that's imminently dangerous and also shows a depraved mind. And we can show our next graphic that we have to explain the imminently dangerous part in the depraved mind. It has to show that it's reasonably certain to kill or cause serious bodily injury, in this case, the shooting of Trayvon Martin, that it's done with ill will, hatred, spite, or evil intent, and it shows an indifference to human life. That's ramped up from manslaughter, which really, manslaughter only you need to show that there was some sort of intentional act or some sort of negligence that was done in order to show or to cause the death of the individual. So there's big differences. The jury's going to get to consider all these, and people think, well, he's charged with murder too, that's all they're going to consider. That's not true. They're going to have manslaughter. They're going to have justifiable use of deadly force. That's your self-defense and your stand your ground defenses. Excusable homicides, they're also going to be instructed on. And that deals with situations, was this all just a freak accident and it's totally excusable and the jury can acquit him of that. So there's all these different levels, just like we saw in Casey Anthony's trial, that are going to be considered by the jury when we get that far. But first, stand your ground is going to come into play.
Right, and Zimmerman's attorney has said that he will likely use that as Zimmerman's defense, but some legal experts are saying that could be risky. Why is that?
Because the stand your ground motion, there's two different parts to it. The motion that we discussed the last time that we were on air, that can be filed before the trial starts. The judge determines whether or not the stand your ground defense is viable and whether or not he will dismiss the charges and Zimmerman walks free. The problem is that Zimmerman is going to have to testify in that particular hearing, and his testimony can be used against him if the case goes to trial. It's also a free shot for the prosecutors to cross-examine him in a courtroom setting. So you won't get a shot at him then, but also possibly in trial. So that's the real risk factor that lawyers need to consider when they raise these stand your ground cases.
There's so many interesting elements, and
absolutely,
it's all going to unfold now.
Yes, and as this case starts and we go forward, we're now at the beginning stages of it. A lot more to come, a lot more documents are going to be released, a lot more evidence that's going to come out in the coming weeks.
Okay. Thank you so much for coming in.
My pleasure, Kristin. Thanks.
All right. We'll be right back.